protect and to serve has become one of the most recognizable phrases in law enforcement across the country. And throughout its over 50 years of use, it has come to embody the spirit, dedication, and professionalism of law enforcement officers. I'm Joni Sutter for Nutmeg TV. The City of Bristol's Acting Chief of Police, Brian Gould, is here today along with Lieutenant Rich Guerrera, Public Information Officer for Bristol, to discuss their community programs. And later in the program, School Resource Officer and Head Advisor of the Explorer Program, Officer George Frenick, will join us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you came.
Well, thanks for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. Captain Gould, can you tell me how did Bristol Police Department get started?
Well, in the late 1800s, there was a decision that we wanted to deploy some night watchmen in the area. So the town broke out into two separate areas, and that's the way the police force started. I believe there were 3 night watchmen assigned to cover the town. And back then, the crime was horse thievery, which was a pretty big deal.
It was a pretty big deal.
Yes, it was.
And how did you get to Bristol?
I came to Bristol 22 years ago. Very competitive process for policing at that time, and there was an ad in the paper for Bristol police officer, and I wanted to be a police officer. Took the test, and here I am 22 years later, blessed, and been a great career.
You've been there for 22 years.
Correct.
So as a captain. You've seen a lot. You've been through the whole process. Do you think it's a calling?
I can only speak for myself, and it definitely was a calling and still is a calling, very intrinsic feeling. It's something inside me. In fact, I can tell you that 23 years ago when I went for my oral boards, I remember explaining to the people listening to me that, if you got inside me for 2 seconds, you would understand that I was the person for the job, because it was something that I really felt strongly about. And I still do. It's a passion. And I do believe that a lot of people that are in this career and stay in this career, and those especially that excel at it, it's a calling for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, the name of the show is Protect and Serve for a reason, and so we thank you very much for your service, and thank you also for your service and what you do for our communities. And now, Lieutenant Guerrera, you're here because there's some really great community programs that are coming out of the city of Bristol, and we'd like to learn about what's happening there. I mean, you have an Explorer program that has quite a few individuals in it. Can you tell us what the ages are and how they become an Explorer?
Yep, we have about 20 young adults, ages from 14 to 21, that are part of our program. And part of the program is basically, it's to see if you like police work. They train like we do. They go through training, physical agilities, testing process, and stuff like that. And if they like it, they continue in the process, and it prepares them if they're, like Chief Gould said, if it's your calling to be a police officer, being an Explorer is a great way to start off on that and see if you really like to be a police officer.
Now, there's a testing process for these individuals?
They fill out some paperwork, and there's a process where they come in, they talk to them, interview them, and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And if they like what they see, they come to a couple of meetings. If they like how it's running and how it's being conducted, they stay. They become part of the program.
And what are they riding with a police officer? What would be? Can you give us an example of what a police explorer might do? So somebody who's watching the program who might think, gee, I think my child might be interested in this, or if a child's watching, they might be interested in this, or a young adult. Yep.
So during the meetings, they'll have like building security training, and they'll show them how a police officer would search a building during an incident. Or they'll have crisis negotiating training, and they'll teach them this is how a police officer would talk to somebody during a crisis negotiation. So it's training like that. And then they actually go out on the road and they do some training out on the road with a couple of our advisors who are police officers, and they'll take them out. They'll work like parade duty, and they'll tell them and show them how to do traffic and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So they're out working. They're limited on what they can do. We can't have them riding cars with some, it's an officer safety issue, but they are out on the field with police officers doing some aspects of the job.
That's wonderful. And it's a wonderful way to figure out if this is something that really resonates with someone.
And they're a great bunch of kids too. And what's neat for them is that there's a structure there, because when you get into the job, and the police departments are paramilitary by most part, and they follow that same philosophy. They have a rank structure, and so that gives them something to achieve within their their group, and it's just neat for these kids that may think they want to go into law enforcement to get into this structural program and really be committed to it, and it guides them and it helps them get to where they need to be.
Do you think that would help them in the interview process or selection process if they were to have been a police explorer?
Oh yeah, we actually have some officers on our police department that were part of the Bristol Police Explorers program, so it definitely helps.
They get the opportunity too, and you're gonna have a great opportunity to speak with Officer Franek, who's our head advisor, and he's a great person and a great advisor. They even go to an academy. They get the option to go to an academy and stay there for a couple weeks, and great program, and we're very proud of it.
Wonderful, you should be. And tell us what else is going on. As a public information officer, what is your role for the city of Bristol?
I kind of do a little bit of everything. So I attend a bunch of community outreach programs we have, and some of them are like Bristol Cares. I attend that meeting once a month. I do our SRO program, our School Resource Officer program, who Officer Franek, who you'll speak to shortly, is one of them. So we have 3 SROs through the city. We have 1 in each high school and 1 that rotates between our middle schools and our K rates. I meet with a couple of associations we have. We have the West End Association, the Forestville Association. I meet with them once a month. We have an honor guard that we use whenever we need them. I am on the Salvation Army Advisory Board. Salvation Army is big in Bristol. They're very active. So we meet with them, or I meet with them once a month. And we also started a Neighborhood Watch program that's been up and running for a few months now. That's really taken off. We've really been well accepted and received. So we have an officer assigned to that. And I'm also on the Triad Council, which is Bristol, Plainville, Burlington, and Plymouth. It's part of the United Way. It's a partnership between law enforcement, community leaders, and the seniors. And our goal there is to basically help seniors in any way we can, and protect them from being victimized in any way possible. So that's a real great program.
Real educational,
too.
really educational. How long have you been serving as public information officer for Bristol?
A little over a year.
Okay, but you've been in other roles in Bristol. So how have you seen some of these community efforts changing? For example, the West End Association is fairly new, newer than the Forestville Village Association, I would think. Are those community organizations very beneficial to the work that you're trying to do, and how well do you interface?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Rick.
Well, it is, because it's an open dialogue between the department and the residents, and they're the ones that have a lot of the information. They're the ones that know what's going on in the streets. They're the ones that kick back to us and go, hey, this is working, this isn't working, and it really helps us focus on the areas that they see the problems in, because sometimes we don't know what's going on. They do. If they're having a problem with drug activity in a certain neighborhood, they could tell us who they think it is and where it's coming from, and that helps us come up with ways to solve the problem. So it's been really well accepted, and they get to interact with us. It keeps the lines of communication open, so it's really been a benefit.
They're in their neighborhoods 24/7. We wish we could be there. We don't have the resources to be there. So it's everything. We were talking earlier about policing has changed. The traditional police were that you responded to crimes and handled crimes, and that's no longer the role of a police officer. You really have your hand in everything in the community, and we take a lot of pride in that in Bristol. Partnering with groups like that, they're out there every day. They know the norm in their neighborhoods and where they are, and by us being comfortable and knowing that Rich is a direct conduit to them, they don't have to call. We have 118 sworn officers right now, so typically when you call, you could see a different officer each and every call, so it's hard. We're trying to, with these neighborhood programs, putting walking beats out there, we want these neighborhoods to know our officers, and Rich is the lead person on that, so they can tell you exactly what's going on, because the lieutenant's right. They know what's going on, and we need their partnership. They need to be able to trust us. We need to trust them, and have that. And that's the only way that you're going to, make everything better. It's not just about crime. It's about improving neighborhood.
No, improving neighborhoods. And I would think that from the resident standpoint, they have they know you.
Yeah, it's
so
a more personal
like
relationship.
Correct. They can talk to you and say what's going on.
Correct. They feel more comfortable talking to somebody they know and they can trust.
Right. and you develop a relationship with them, so you can kind of get a better lay of the land, so to speak.
Correct.
Now, the Salvation Army is an enormous, has had an enormous impact on Bristol. They're very active, as you said, and from a volunteer standpoint, you know, I've done some volunteer work with them, but how does the police department actually work with them?
Well, we kind of partner up with them. They have a soup kitchen during the holiday seasons. We do a toy drive with them, and we donate our toys to them. If there's any issues where the Salvation Army is that location, we try to address them. If there's any issues that's going on in the soup kitchen, we try to address it. Once again, it's just an open dialogue. If there's any issues throughout the city, we had some issues with some homeless people, and they were able to provide us with some information when officers had interaction with homeless people, what we could do and how we could direct them. So it's a valuable resource.
Very. Now, as public information officer, what are some of the goals that you have going forward?
Well, we want to educate the public and let them know, you know, we're out there for them, and that how they could resolve some of their issues. One some of that ways is through our neighborhood watch or some of the programs that, or some of the organizations I sit on. But it's and we want them to know that the police aren't just out there to make arrests. We're out there to improve their lives. We're not just out there, you know, to arrest people. We want them to know there's a different side to policing, and this is part of it.
Yes, absolutely.
We you know, I think, you know, it's built right into our mission statement, and you opened up with protect and serve, and you know, a lot of people get caught up in the protection part, and you know, sometimes forget about the service part, and we're really try to take the lead on, you know, being that service. We are the people. We work with the people. We don't exist without our public, and our public, you know, can't exist normally, if you will, without their police department. So there really has to be a unification there. You have to work together. You know, if you are going to have at the end of the day, it's about having a safe community, you know, and a place where you want to feel safe and just have a happy, good life.
And how wonderful for Bristol that they have you setting that direction, because that tone starts, I think, in the top office and works its way down. And when you said policing has changed, it has changed. And how great for the city of Bristol that you've got all these things in place to help to create that unification within the group.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and you know, really, it's the people carrying out the mission is what it is. So as much as I thank you for recognizing that, it's Lieutenant Guerrero on down, and the officers that are out there every single day, day in, day out. You know, they're the ones carrying out the objective, and I appreciate every single one of them so much.
I want to thank you very much for being here, and I would like to invite you back sometime to talk about some of these initiatives in more detail. And when we come back, we are going to be joined by Officer George Frenick, who's going to talk to us about the School Resource Officer program that he is involved with.
NutmegTV.org is viewable across all mobile devices and your home computer. View all of your favorite programs when you want to with video on demand. Can't get to a TV? Stream our 3 channels on the go, right on your phone. Order from our online store, view the TV schedule, and learn about our free classes. NutmegTV.org, your voice, your choice, anywhere, anytime.
Joining us now is School Resource Officer and Head Advisor of the Explorer Program, Officer George Frenick. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So we were talking about, before we started rolling here, we were talking about what your role is in the school, and you're at Bristol Central.
Yes, I am.
How many kids?
1,400, including staff.
Okay, and so what is the role that you have there?
So the role of a school resource officer is to, obviously in the name, be a resource to the staff, the students, to make sure that they're obviously being safe while they're in the building, but also to be a counselor, a role model, to bridge the gap of the police uniform and to truly make a connection with that youth.
Are you there every day?
Every day, Monday through Friday.
So you know them by name?
Yep.
You don't travel from school to school. That's your school.
That is my school.
And is this something that you wanted to do?
Very much so. I've been involved with the Explorer Post for 11 years, and when the opportunity arose to test for this position, I took full advantage of that.
Okay.
And it was a tested position. It wasn't just an assignment. We had to do an oral board. We had to write a letter of intent. And it was very much a competitive process.
That's good to know. I didn't realize that. I thought that maybe it would be an assignment that you could put in for, that you were interested in. So when you look at some of the dynamics within the school, what would you say would be something that you've seen on the rise over the last year with high school age kids?
A lot of different things kind of factor in. We've seen a huge increase in the number of cell phone thefts, larcenies from the school, but also fights, disturbances in and out of the school, as well as kids suffering from emotional emergencies. And that falls well within my role to be part of the community, is to make sure that the kids are getting the help that they need.
Does having you in the school allow that student to really get down to brass tacks with you and let you
Yes.
know what's going on?
Yes. My biggest role is to create that relationship with the students, and I believe I've done a good job with that. Even today I had a student who said, look, I don't want to talk to anybody else but you, and this is what's going on. So we wear many different hats, but being able to have a youth open up and tell me what's going on, and making sure that their needs are being addressed. Do they have food? Do they have shelter? Do they need any assistance that I know of? Do I need to get outside agencies involved? And being an advocate for that child.
I think too the school resource program is a really important and great program, and I've actually heard the other side of it. I've heard people say, well, I didn't have cops in schools when we were growing up. Why do we need cops there? And I think there might be a misconception out there that the officers are in there making arrests all the time, and that's actually not the case. They work in partnership with the schools. If it's school behavioral problems, it's the school that takes the lead on that kind of stuff. The officers will make an arrest if it's a something that's a felony or something like that, or a fight that criminal. They're not in there making arrests, and I've heard people, well, why are the cops in there dealing with these issues when it should be the school? It's important because he's in there and he's interacting with not only the kids but with the staff too. And just as George said, he's the conduit to many different agencies and what's going on. And many people only they see police officers. We're kind of unique in the fact that we only come in bad times most of the time. So a lot of these kids, their only exposure to a police officer before having this type of program is when something terrible happened somewhere in their life, and they may leave with not such a great impression. We have to go in there on a domestic disturbance or something like that, for example, and they see mom or dad being taken out in handcuffs. Well, that's what they identified the police with. A great opportunity for them to really learn that, we're just the same as you. And it's a
So
great
it sounds
program.
like administratively you're taking a proactive role
Oh,
to
yeah.
say, okay, no, the police officer isn't in the school just walking around the halls going, who's doing this
No,
wrong,
he's
who's
not a
doing
hall
this wrong.
monitor, right.
You're there to determine and build relationships and to really help. Can you tell us the story to the viewers that you told me before we started about the senior who was graduating?
So last year was my first year as a school resource officer, and when it comes to the students, lunchtime, sometimes money can get very tight. A lot of times the kids' only meals are breakfast or lunch that's provided in the building. So there was one student in particular who all the time, Officer George, look, could I have some money for lunch? And he always had his head down. I said, dude, I got you, not a problem. Came out of my own pocket. I wanted to make sure that these kids had the basic necessities to succeed. So it came time for graduation, and he crossed the stage. I shook his hand. I said, hey, I'm really proud of you. You made it. And he goes, I couldn't have done it without you. And I sat there and I said, you did all the work. What did I do? He goes, you made sure I was fed. You were the one person who I knew had my back. And I want to see where he goes in life because I know he'll go very far. But that's the whole thing, is we're human.
Can you well, you probably do interact with agencies that can be of assistance.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Because you're one guy.
Yep. So a lot of times I have direct contact with Bristol Youth Services,
Right.
Department of Children and Families, all the way up to social services. It's also being, hey, my mom's having a problem. Can you talk to her? Sure. Mom, what's going on? Okay. Dad, what's going on?
In a proactive role.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing of serving the community. Being a part of the Bristol Central community as well as the community of Bristol is that it is my role to be there for them.
No, I can feel that you care.
We have other school resource officers too, and their job is just so important. And again, it's about knowing someone, and they will deal with issues that don't even happen in the school. Parents feel comfortable calling them. Now, they may not take the complaint, but they at least will forward it to the right division and stuff. It's a, you know, again, it's about that trust and building that relationship.
Right, and guidance. We were talking about Facebook, and I asked you, are kids worried about what they put on Facebook? And you said absolutely not.
And Facebook, unfortunately, is dying out. Now you have Instagram, Twitter, after school. I have a huge responsibility to know what's going on social media-wise, and I'm still trying to learn what's going on.
Yeah, because they're a step ahead.
Oh, but to be a parent nowadays, well, what are you doing on Facebook? Nothing. They show them the Facebook account. Well, they don't know about Twitter, Instagram, and all these other apps that...
It'd be so great if you had like a forum that parents could go to, and you could talk generically about high school age kids. Because, you know, parents aren't born to know this stuff.
No.
That you grow with your child and you hope you know the best. But that might be something. I saw, you know, in the paper recently, Bristol schools. In fact, this is Bristol Central,
school.
your school here. This was the front page of the paper. Just in February, Bristol receives automated calls. How do you get involved with that kind of thing?
So with that, obviously we're there for security. We want to make sure that our staff and students are protected at all times. So once immediately being advised of an issue, I address it through my boss, and I take immediate steps to address it and make sure that there is no issue going on. And if there is, I will take care of it, call in additional resources. Myself and patrol, as well as Lieutenant Guerrero, who spoke before, we work seamlessly together. If there's a critical incident, we will take care of it. We have more than enough ability to handle it, and we do.
And Chief, from an administrative standpoint, how do you take care of guys like this?
Oh,
Because, you know, you don't have, you're always hooked in.
Yep.
Whereas you have to have downtime too.
You know, every single person that operates in our department is important at their function, you know, so George is extremely valuable asset for our department, and how you take care of him and others is, you know, staying in contact with them, trying to provide him with the resources that he needs and the others need to get their job done. You know, value people like George so much, and you know, George is right. He went through a process, and we had some stiff competition there, because it takes a special person to be a police officer. Number one, it takes a more special person to go into the type of field that he's in right now and relate to kids. And you know, I think you were talking about a calling earlier. I think this is an additional calling.
Yeah, and you're passionate.
yeah.
I can tell that you really care about your students, and that's so wonderful. Thank you for that. In our closing time here, I want to just talk to you about what's on your uniform, and that's your body cam. I have never seen one, so can you explain to us how you use it, and do you think it's beneficial?
So once I come in during the morning, I change, put on my uniform, camera goes on. The moment I walk out of the police department, does a self-check, and it goes into a standby mode. The moment I need it, I activate it, it'll record audio and sound. So document any type of incident that I feel needs to be documented. I've used it at the school several times, just in terms of criminal complaints, taking statements, things like that. I think it's a huge benefit to law enforcement. It shows that we are transparent. It shows that we are the police department that the citizens of Bristol expect to be there. It provides an unbiased view of what we are dealing with. And I think it's a great asset to have. It's another tool that we can use productively.
And that's a decision that comes down from your office too, because what does that entail? Having that means more record keeping. It means expense.
It's, you know, when body cameras really started coming on the scene, a lot of people thought it was just as easy as going out and putting a camera on George here and that's it. It's a tremendous undertaking. That's why we thought it was important enough to take it, but it's a big task. It's a huge cost. It was a big burden on our budget. This was the first year that we had to build it into our budget. It was a substantial increase to our budget this year. Storing the data, you know, you have to have that you know, these are all videos that we keep, and every incident is captured. you have to have a place to store that. So we had to find and pay for storage. Policies and procedures, you know, when do they turn them on? When do they not have them on? We had to develop policies, and we got guidance with a mandated policy that came out of our council. A big undertaking, but to support what George was saying, this is what our community and what our public demands of us. They know this stuff is out there, and I've told many people this before. You know, we are operating and we want to be transparent, and you really can't be more transparent than getting an actual depiction of what's going on.
Well, that's wonderful. It's nice to see one in person, and it's nice to hear that you know, it doesn't hamper what you're doing. It's helping what you're doing in a big way. And again, thank you for your passion to these young people who you may be many times the only one that they have to talk to, and to encourage them to continue going on to do what they're doing and follow the right path. So we're very happy to hear that, and thanks for your dedication and service. Our time is up today, but I hope we can have Bristol back again.
Oh yeah, we'd like that.
Because there's, you know, we're just touching the surface. You're a large city, and you have a lot of citizens and a lot of different programs that are going on. It'd be great to get into some more depth. So.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I appreciate you reaching out to us and having us on board here, because this is a great way to be able to explain what the community has available to them. So thank you for that too.
Protect, you're welcome. Protect is, like you said, and I think you said it best, protect is one part of it, but serve. There's all these avenues that people need to know about, you know, that you're there really to service the community and be an active role. So until the next time, I'm Joni Sutter.